Hi, welcome to class. We're the only two right now, but the other ones will show up eventually, right? I hate my life. I hate my life.
A Professor Sunreis Productions!
Hello class, Professor Sunreis here. In today's class we're taking a look at a replay analysis I did play against Sprite. Very interesting matchup because it's the second most represented deck in the format basically. Pretty sure it's right there, maybe with Thunder. And while you might think that the Bystials are not very good against those because they don't really rely on Graveyard effects, which you can disrupt with the Bystials, I feel like, at least my personal opinion, that it still plays kind of good into that. I talked about it here and there, but just how oppressive the Bystials are against the Sprite board with just being very big beat sticks, forcing out elves so they don't get disruption, and then in the grind game, if you get rid of the disruption and you run over the board and you have a regain setup with a Magnum and something like that, you basically cannot lose anymore. Seal plus Branded Beast and Jerusalem is also very good against that matchup, so in my opinion it's a very good matchup for the Bystial deck. In this replay, I'm playing Bystial Dragon Link again because I'm trying to optimize this deck for the new format. I'm just getting used to that, so you will probably see more of those in the future than the Bystial Control version, just because I don't think Bystial Control is worth it anymore in the next month. So yeah, without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave some feedback down in the comment section below, and let's get right into the replay. So here we are on the replay. We are against Francesco Giordenti with 1,600 rating. So a pretty good play. I'm at 900 something rating in this scenario. So let's pause here in a second. Opening hand has, we go first. Opening hand has Jet, Drus, Worm Blue, Jet, Angler. So there's only one disruption. Our hand is completely not with Absolata, Chaos Base, Lubellion, Sereny, and Quick Launch. So let's just take a look how I play this out. I start off with the Chaos Base. This is by far the best card, just play into a random draw. Shifter would have come out already, and even if it did not come out, this is the card we want to Shifter, or want to use before Shifter. So we search a Wyver Burster, effect Router, search Rocket, Tracer, and you can see here, in this scenario, we do have two Rocket Engines in Quick Launch and Tracer, so this is something because I have so many extenders, because, you know, or we probably don't know, but for the main combo we need 3 dragons on the board, so we need 2 to go into Ravine, and then we need additional dragons because we got into the Tracer. So we basically need 2 dragons to get into Ravine, and then we need 1 extender for the full combo. And we have the 2 dragons here, we have the 1 extender and the Lubellion, so theoretically we can just use these 2 to get into the into a very early Baronne to just get a nice installation against any sort of hand trap, so that's pretty good in my opinion. So here we go for the Search Magnamut. We activate Magnamut on an empty board just so that they cannot answer with the Bystial themselves. I think that's very worth it in this scenario. So we get the Magnamut on the field. They are deciding to use the Drus Worm. Very good for us just because we did not really go for a Lubellion. We did not really want to go for a Lubellion in this scenario, but it probably makes sense for them to use the Drus Worm there. So we normal summon the Tracer because they know we have that, so we don't want to give them any information we don't have to give them. We go into a Baronne. With this Baronne, we can out the Drus Worm, which we will do later on, but just not yet. We go for the Wyver Burster. If chaining 1 Striker, chaining 2 Wyver Burster, pretty standard, playing around the halfness. At this scenario, we do still have a Bystial. So while this is very good with the Baronne, it does play into a shit ton of hand traps, just a little bit, but it should be fine. We still have 1 Serenia, plus the Baronne to handle with anything my opponent might do to us, so we are pretty good. Just insulated against any form of disruption. So now we use the Cool Absorption, banishing the Wyver Burster, pretty standard stuff from here on. Chaos Space, put back the Wyver Burster, get a free draw. We draw into the Ravine, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world because now we can just go into a Dark, use the Cool Absorption to search a Wyver Burster, and because we basically have to out this Drus Worm at some point and will force out 1 negate we have, be it either the Savage or the Baronne, I think it is very good to just use it. Just use the Baronne pop now, and then use the and just negate the Drus Worm effect, because now we can actually summon back the Drus Worm with the Dark, and then we have an additional extender, so we are not forced to use our Bystial just yet. So while we do lose our 1 installation with the Baronne, we still have the Bystial, and we have just so many extenders and just so much gas that I think we are pretty good. I activate Ravine here, pitch a Lubellion, pitching Wyver Burster from hand, so if there was a Kelback that would come out now, and then I would still have a very good hand, because if there was a Kelback on like Dark or Drus Worm, I still would have had full combo. If they put it on Dark, I could have gone into a Tomb. If they put it on Drus Worm, I still had the Serenia to do full combo. So now we activate Quick Launch, we get the Tracer, and just this is the setup which we want. We want 1 level 4. Arguably Tracer is the best one for that, and then just a way into Triple Burst Dragon. So we link Tracer into Pisty, the other two into Triple Burst. We summon back a Tracer from Banish Pile, playing around at random Bystial. Effect Tracer on the Ravine. We even get to keep the Boot Sector launch for additional follow-up, which is always very nice. And now we go into the Borrowland, effect Borrowland on the Recharger, summoning back a Tracer. We don't do it on the Baron because we plan to Baron tag out into Magnamod next turn, so we can get our Magnamod follow-up without playing into Talents, so that's pretty clean in my opinion. So now we know there's basically no disruption anymore on the opponent's part, so we can use the Serenity on the Pisty. Because we sent a Lobellion with the Dragon Ravine, we actually get the full combo. This is basically as good as it gets for the deck. We have Baron, we have Savage, we have Borrowland. We had to use the Baron, but that's just not that big of a deal. And we are allowed to get the full Branded Beast package with Branded Beast and Branded Regain, and even a Lobellion on the field. So we have an immediate Branded Beast pop on anything. Pretty crazy board. We get to add the Drew's Worm, and we have everything. We have so many lines of follow-up. We have so many disruption. The opponent's hand is just not quite there to be able to deal with that. And stand by face, we use Baron, tag out the Magnamod, tag out, the opponent just scoops. At this point, I think it is the correct assumption to think that they are on tier elements. Of course, they could be on some random rogue deck, but you cannot really be too sure about that. So it should probably be tier elements just because, of course, Sprite could also play Drew's Worms, and it does in this scenario, but Sprite has a way higher chance of seeing multiple hand traps. So either, of course, they can always break, but you don't assume that. So in my opinion, I think the likelihood of them being on tier elements is slightly higher, so I sided for that and didn't put in stuff like Gamma. So just put in additional Bystials, and we are on Black Metal, Wyver Burster, Safer, Sarania, and Rennet Regained. And they are on Magnamod, Smashers, Ash, Drew's Worm, and Beaver. So a pretty okay hand. They do die to one hand trap, so if we had a Gamma, a Veiler, or stuff like that, we would have had a really good time, but we didn't have it, so they are actually allowed to basically full combo. They cannot go for a Swap Rock, but a lot of people aren't even playing that. I don't know if they are on Swap Rock or not. It does not seem like it, because I've just not seen any at any time, but who knows. So they go into Gigantic here, pretty standard board. We have no way to use our Serenity here, which is standard. If you play correctly, you should play around Bystials with that. Go into a blue Search Jet Search Trap, because they already have Smashers, which is pretty unfortunate for us. And they go for not the standard line, but if you don't have swap access, this is pretty standard to go for a route like that, where you go for a Sprint Stone, the extra muscle zone, just because it is an additional form of disruption. So they set Smashers, set that, they had Ash, Drew's Worm, Magnamod, pretty good hand. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 disruptions basically, 6 with the Sprint, a form of follow-up with an Elf, pretty good hand. We draw Chaos Base, which is insane if it wasn't for the Ash. So we start out with that because we basically have to get a Dark into the grave so we're able to play it all. Because, okay, we could use Serenity in the standby phase, but that doesn't do enough because that will just get bounced. Or banished with the Smashers, or with Stone with Double Cross, so we just have to play through that. And there was just no way we could have played here unless we could resolve this one. If we would have gotten the Lobellion here, that would have been insane, because basically all of our normal summons are Serenity, or like all of our ways to get bodies on the board, they have a way to deal with those with the Double Cross, with the Smashers. So that's pretty unfortunate for us. So we use the Regained here to get a draw, maybe draw into a Lobellion, draw into an additional Bystial, stuff like that. And they will chain the Sprint here, detaching from that to put that back. Of course, that's a very strong play, because now that I'm not allowed to float into anything, they do use the Smashers on the Regained, which is pretty unfortunate, but they feel very safe here with the Sprite Double Cross on the Safered. Nothing to be done about that. And now we are kind of stuck here with just one Serenia. We can run over the Sprite, getting the Gigantic, getting the Safered back, but it doesn't do enough. We go into end of main phase, they chain, or use Elf on the Jet, we chain the Serenia, but at this point there's just no way we can win this one here. We run over the Gigantic, but at this point we can do nothing. So we just scoop here. So now we know we are up against Sprite. Here we have a weird thing where they wanted to draw because they couldn't side. Had this happened to me before, I thought this was kind of like a scam. I didn't actually know that if you draw, you can just do another game. I thought that the game was just a draw and I can't do shit. Like I don't get any, I don't lose any points, but I also don't get any points. Anyways, we can just get into another game here. We of course can go first. Opening hand is Black Metal Dragon, Magnamod, Lobellion, Chaos Space Veiler. and they are on Serenia, Shifter, Prosperity, Starter, and Serenia. So they do have the Shifter plus Starter Prosperity, which is pretty decent. They shotgun the Shifter in the standby phase. We use the Magnamud on the Shifter. Effect of Magnamud, so we get some nice follow-up. We normal summon the Black Metal Dragon. We go to Striker Dragon. Arguably, you don't want to go for that because you want to have a way to link off like anything we search of Chaos Space, so the Wyver or the Collapse next turn. So you can you do the normal combo next turn, but you really don't want to draw Boot Sector Launch. And we still have Pissy in the deck, plus we have Chaos Space in the graveyard to recycle that. So in this scenario, exactly because we do have Chaos Space, it is always good to do that. If you don't have Chaos Space, you might want to consider that, because while Pissy can be used to link off, the likelihood if you use Pissy to link off, that you still get into the triple burst combo with ending on Borrowland is very hindered. But because I had the Chaos Burst, I can always recycle that. I think that's the correct play. And then we have at the Seyfried with the Magnamud, because we know none of the Bystials will do anything next turn. And we have Lubellion plus Seyfried for next turn and Chaos Base. So we should be pretty good here. The likelihood to get OTK through that is pretty unlikely, just because Seal basically stops any sort of OTK Sprite can do, unless they have like an impermanence. Here they go for Prosperity for 3. By the way, they drew Magnamud, so nothing they can use now, but next turn that is alive. They get Prosperity for 3 into Beaver, Starter, Blue, so that's pretty good for them. So now they have Beaver plus Starter, so they have everything you could ask for basically. They use Beaver here, effect Beaver, get the Angler out of the deck. At this point, they basically are forced to go Battle Phase because they cannot commit into any Link 2, because I would just get immense value of the Seal here. So they go into the Seal, we declare Seal, we do put back the Angler. Reason for that is pretty simple, because they are under Shifter, there's no way they can use Swap Frog Angler to do anything to me. And Beaver, of course, is a better normal summon in the grind game. So just putting back the Angler is correct in my opinion. Here we use that. The Seal to go into Magnamud, effect Magnamud, get its follow-up, of course. So we cannot get OTK'd, we will have 7 cards next turn. I'm feeling very confident that I can win this one. Blue effect of the starter summoned, go into Jet. They don't really have any form of disruption here that they could get into, because they are going second, so the likelihood that they have the trap in the deck is pretty low. They don't have any Sprite in their hand, so and they won't get any in the graveyard because of Shifters, so Smashes is not really a good card they can add. So they're basically stuck with getting Starter and going into like a very weird a weak board here. They go Gigantic effect, banish the Beaver probably. Yeah, banish Beaver, go into Carrot, and at this point they set the Starter and that's it. At end phase we search the Chaos Emperor because it is an additional extender and it gets us back Magnamud, so that we have both access to Magnamud and Druid's Worm for the board breaking capabilities. We draw Quick Launch, which is an insane pickup. With that we use Lubellion to bait like maybe for an Ash because we have additional ways into Bystials. We go for Druid's Worm because we have the Druid's Worm and the Quick Launch. I really want to go for a Barone line here to force out lots of disruption. So we first off start out by using Chaos Space, Pitch Vader. Most importantly, this does bait a Carrot Negate. We don't need the Chaos Space to resolve because we have Seyfried to get into the Chaos Dragons. The opponent knows that, so they could argue, you could argue that you don't want to negate that. Problem with that is I don't really play a lot of spells, so I think it is the correct thing to head the Chaos Space here, but I have additional ways to use that, so I'm not really mad if my Chaos Space gets negated. My Quick Launch is way more important because it gives me access into Synchro lines so that I get way more pressure on the board. Also, most important, it gives me a Veiler into the graveyard, so that way that I have a target which I can banish of the Druid's Worm, which is not the Lubellion. So that's pretty good. The Carrot negates the Chaos Base. Like I said, I'm totally fine with that. Basically everything which you want to search, I have the abilities to search. We could have searched a Levy here, that would have been insane. So that is still definitely correct to negate. Here we use Tracer. Here we use Quick Launch and Chaining 2 on the Druid's Worm. Of course, we don't want any monsters on the board for the first Bystial if we have the possibility for that, so that they cannot counter the Bystial with our own Bystial. Here they do decide to use the Serenia on the Lubellion. We let that resolve. We are totally fine with that. We theoretically can add it back, and we don't really need the Lubellion in this scenario. Because here we just go into a Barone, effect Barone, and effect Druid's Worm, sorry, on the Gigantic. And here I use the Gigantic because I can just run over this and still deal damage with the Borrowland. But most importantly, this is a negate and destroy if they decide to summon a starter, a red. I think here that I'm pretty good to just not use the Barone pop, because what are they gonna do with starter? Either they summon a red and I can just pop the red and I have basically all of the negates out. I know that they have 2 cards in hand, which are unknown, so that at maximum I have 2 destructions that I can deal with, and I can just use the Baron for the one which they still have in hand. So I can use the pop to deal with the starter, and I can use the 1 negate in hand to deal with 1 card they have, so that leaves them on 1 card which they can still destruct me with. Or they could go for a starter, search blue, or like search for summon blue and search some follow-up, but then I can just OTK them because they have 1 less disruption, and I can just easily clean them up, in my opinion. So I'm feeling very confident here. I normal summon Seyfried, effect Seyfried, like I said, get into the Chaos Dragons. We search the Collapse Serpent. Here we could just also activate Boot Sector Launch and summon Tracer. I don't know why I didn't go for that. Or do I go for that? Here we go for Magnum, Chaos Emperor, search the Magnum, or add it back, I would say. I think you should probably go for Boot Sector Launch here. We use Magnum on their Jet. They think here they really want to chain the Magnum just because they want to get their starter going soon. So they use the Magnum, and I'm thinking, that's a pretty good negate. If I don't get my Magnum here on the board, I am kind of in a not so clean position, so we get the Magnum on. Definitely should have used the Boot Sector Launch first, though. Seems like a very big misplay. Could have done so much more with that. But it's not the end of the world. We basically still have full combo, but it's just a free extender if they have another Druid's Worm, for example. So we use Collapse Serpent and that to go into Romulus, effect Romulus, and Collapse Serpent, netting us a Viper Burster ad and the Field Spell ad. And here I think we activate we use Collapse Serpent, go into banish Collapse Serpent, and we use Viper Burster, banish Collapse Serpent, use Chaos Base, put the Collapse Serpent back. It just feels so good to use this. We don't trust Serenade, which is probably the best draw we could have asked for. Go for Pisty. Now we use Viper Burster to go into Collapse Serpent at that, so we have a discard for Ravine. We can activate, we can summon the Chaos Emperor out of the extra deck, banishing Viper Burster and Druid's Worm, go into a triple Burst Dragon. Yeah, I think I wanted to do that because I still had the Boot Sector Launch summon out of hand with the Ravine line, so I think it is still fine, but you could have argued that you want to go for the Boot Sector first here. They use their starter because they want to negate our Pisty with their red, but we still have the Baron pop the red, and their opponent just scoops because we basically have everything which you would have wanted in this scenario. So this was very interesting. We got shifted, but just because the way how Seal works against Sprite, it's still pretty safe as long as you can get into a shifter that you will survive. And if you resolve 2 Magnamods in 2 turns, you have like so much gas with the deck, with all of the broken one-offs like the Chaos Emperor, like access to Levy, access to Seyfried, have a Rebellion in hand, stuff like that. It is very hard not to win with this deck against Sprite, just because it is kind of low tempo and this deck is so high tempo and so aggressive, just with the amount of big beat sticks it has, access to Baron, access to Boral End Dragon, how to deal with stuff, especially for Sprite if you've already forced the Smashers. I think this matchup is pretty good and gives me a good hope for the future, because we still will have, in the next format, we'll have 2 good matchups with Tier Elements and Sprite, and then just 1 bad matchup with Kashtira and Floowandereeze, I guess, also. So we have 2 good ones, 2 bad ones, so I still think this deck will be fine next format. Hope you guys enjoyed this replay analysis against Sprite. Class dismissed. You guys are free to leave. Professor Sunreis out. Peace.